even though we are created as nurturers right now. We are created as nurturers. But because of a lot of things that we allowed to seep into our psyche, because of the different things that we have allowed to influence us, that has taken us away from our natural nature of being that nurturer, being that caretaker, we become demolishers.
Warning, viewer discretion is advised. The content, viewed as an educational material you are about to experience, could challenge your belief, trigger strong emotions, and frankly, piss you off. This isn't for everyone. If you're not ready to confront new ideas, or if your feelings bruise easily, this might be the time to click away. Expect to be challenged, to think, and you might even want to scream at the screen. Proceed with caution, and remember, you chose to be here. Let's get it.
Assalamu alaikum, peace. It's Coach Nyla, one of the co-founders of Outstanding Personal Relationships, as well as co-author of the book, Let's Talk Polygamy Uncensored. Let's get into it. Why do wives in polygyny, if you will, which means that a man married to multiple women, married, having multiple wives, and that's what we're talking about today. Polygyny, a man being married to multiple wives. And why are those wives limiting themselves? For what reason? Why? What do you mean, Coach Nyla? Well, this is what I mean. I mean that we see ourselves as a number. We see ourselves as bodies, if you will. Why do I say we see ourselves as bodies? Because society does. And we are part of that society that feeds into that narrative. And a lot of times we are feeding into that narrative. We feed into that narrative with comments such as, it's about sex. It's about a man's lustful desires. It's about, him not loving more. It's about him loving one more than loving the other. And all these other things that go, they're so basic. They're so basic and does not really encompass the true nature of polygyny. And the reason why I say the wives do it, the wives are the ones that are limiting ourselves, is because the women are the ones who are being vocal, very vocal about this. So women who are saying that men don't care about women, he just wants to collect bodies. The men aren't saying that. And so why would the men say that? Well, men are very bold. They can say that. But the men aren't saying that. The women are projecting these thoughts and ideas that they are having onto the men and putting that as their reason for marrying multiple women. There may be men out there, and I'm pretty sure there are predators out there that do that collect bodies. But the true nature of polygyny isn't that. And it isn't about that. But more often than not, I see a number of women, a number of wives that are either comparing themselves with their co-wife, that are not minding their marriage, that are not being the best that they could be, that are not going above and beyond for themselves, for their own growth, for their own happiness, for their own fulfillment. And I realize that it's easier to tear down, and I've seen it all over the place. It's easier to tear somebody else down than to build a higher building. It's easier to just demolish another person's building, marriage, if you will, than to build your own, to take the work, to do the work. And yes, sometimes people have this issue with work, the word work, but work means effort. Putting in the effort to do what you must do to make your marriage amazing, to make your marriage outstanding. But when we say, I can relate more to this person, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to relate to people. It is what it is. But when you say that I'm relating to this person more because I'm also a first wife, so I can only relate to a first wife, you are limiting yourself. Or if you say that I can only relate to this wife because she's a second wife or an additional wife. And I've gotten to the point where I'm getting out of saying subsequent wife. I've mentioned that in a number of videos. because that is also in my brain, in my mind, a limitation. A limitation. Sub, for some reason, in a number of different contexts, means below, beneath. And even though subsequent means after, the prefix sub a lot of times give that mentality of being below, beneath, under. So I'm getting away from that because, again, like I said, to me, that puts limitations. A wife is a wife is a wife. So only for illustration purposes, I will say additional wives, initial wives, or something on the lines of that. Usually, I'll just say wife or other wife, his other wife. Like I am Coach Nazir's other wife. Yes, for those who are, who know and those who don't know, I am his additional wife. I am his second wife. However, I used to let that title affect me and put me at a position that limited me. And a lot of additional wives do that. And a lot of initial wives limit themselves as the initial wife. And that's a limit. That's a limitation. Now, the reason why now it could hold more clout because first is always going to be first. First is always going to be first. Second, sometimes people would look at that and like, oh, well, second is new. And, the additional wife is a new thing and this and that and the other. New don't stay new for long, honey. So that's very fleeting. And that's where the limitations come into play. When we start putting numbers on things. I'm the first, I'm the second, I'm the initial, I'm the additional. I was here this amount of years. She was there this amount of years. And a lot of times it's just not minding your marriage. And it's only seeing yourself as a number or as a body. I've been here longer, or we have this amount of kids together. And a lot of other people do that. And then we start to feed into that. It's not that we just, let me just put myself in this category. And sometimes it may look as though that it's something that is bringing us up, but it's actually limiting us. And we do that a lot. I see it in the comments. I see it in the emails. I see it where people are asking, well, why am, I'm looked at this way? Because we put ourselves that way. People are going to see what they see. I've realized that a long time ago when it came to me, people don't look past the position I am in my marriage to see past that, to see the coach that I am, to find out more about me, to find out more about what I can offer them, how I can help them, how I can see past the position of a subsequent, additional, second wife, so to speak. But I do. So I had to realize that it's not me. That's not a me thing. That's that person's thing. And if they choose to limit themselves and where they can fit in, how they can learn, who they can learn from, because I've had a number of things that come up and say, well, I would like to hear it from this perspective, which is fine. It's fine and dandy. However, if you say, I only want to hear it from this perspective because I can only relate to this person because of the position that I'm in, that shows that you're not willing to expand your thinking. You're not willing to expand your learning. You're not willing to expand your growth. And we'll do that a lot when we say, well, I can only relate to this person. Because now we're not looking to understand things. We just want someone to validate. And growth doesn't just come from validation. Growth really actually doesn't come from validation. Growth comes from understanding, from learning new things, from stretching yourself, things as far as that. And that is what makes you a better wife. That's what makes you a better person. That's what makes you better in your relationships. So your relationships are outstanding. Being able to look past the superficial, look past the basic, and say, am I limiting myself? Am I limiting myself? Am I putting myself in a position that I am unable to grow? Am I putting myself in a position where I'm not able to have fulfillment in my relationships, in my marriage, in my life? Because I'm putting myself in a position of this is where I am, this is all I am, or this is the main thing. And so instead of saying that I'm an amazing person that is willing to learn, that is willing to grow, I'm an amazing woman. Another thing that we compare and we limit ourselves by comparing ourselves to our husbands or to other men. We are women, and when we compare ourselves to men, we compare ourselves in doing the things that everybody can actually do if they work hard at doing it. Everybody can do. But there are amazing things that only women can do, and there are amazing things only men can do. So we are made different. We are created different for a reason. And another thing is that we all have our privileges. Men have their privileges and we have ours. The thing is, when we get so greedy that we only want the privilege, that we don't want anybody else to have privileges, if we can't have those privileges, then we are limiting ourselves. And it shows a lot about our character. And I'm going to do, it's going to be another video, if you haven't seen it or if it hasn't been up yet, another video where it goes into the point of how we like drama. And not that we as women, period, but ones who are very, very vocal, who want to compete a lot, want a lot of drama. But sometimes women don't really want to compete. That's another one. That's another video for another day. That women want to win, they don't want to compete. Because competition or competing means that you have to work, put in the effort to be better, not to tear somebody else's thing down. And I will get into that in another video, how time after time after time again, if we just step out of our own way and we actually get out of the picture, get out of the frame so we can see the full picture, we'll see how we are very good at destroying things versus building them up, even though we are nurturers, even though we are created as nurturers right now. We created as nurturers. But because of a lot of things that we allowed to seep into our psyche, because of the different things that we have allowed to influence us, and that has taken us away from our natural nature of being that nurturer, being that caretaker, we become demolishers, we become destroyers, and we become very destructive of our relationships and our own mindset, because we are putting ourselves in a limited position, not looking to grow. We want to fight and argue and only have people hear our point. And we are not growing if we can't hear the other person's view. We can't grow if we're not stretching ourselves to find out more about other people, or to find out how that other person can relate to them, or they can relate to that other person, even though they may not be in the same position in their lives. So please, please stop limiting yourself. Please stop limiting yourself as a wife in polygyny, whatever timeline, number, or whatever you came in as. You are not just that number. You are not just, during this timeline, during this time span, married for this amount of years. You have so much more to offer than that. You have so much more to offer. And to put yourself in that situation, it does cause some emotional and mental damage. And that's things that we are inflicting on ourselves. We can't blame that on polygyny. We can't blame that on our relationships. We can only blame us. Why can we blame us? And why should we blame us? Because we have the responsibility, and we should take the responsibility for what we do, for what we take out of it all. As I stated before, when I was limiting myself because of what other people said, I know that a lot of people will feel that they can't relate to me for a number of different reasons. I'm just different like that. It is what it is. But a lot of people, once they get to know me, or once they really step out of, seeing me for just what they see or what they think of me, they start to say, oh, wow, I can understand that. I can see where she's coming from. Oh, wow, I didn't realize that she knew these things, or she had this experience, or anything like that. My co-wife even talked about that. She said once she got out of seeing me and putting me in a particular box and gotten to know who I am and who I was then, because you grow consistently, or you should be growing consistently. So you change constantly. But when it comes down to it, she stated that I figured out that we connect on a number of different levels, because I had to take her out of this box that I put her in. And I'm pretty much paraphrasing, but you guys, if you haven't seen the videos, they're out there. So, that's what we have to do for one another. Not put each other in a box, not limit the other. But a lot of times we are putting limits on other people because we are putting limitations on ourselves. And once we stop doing that to ourselves, it's easier for us to be able to open up enough to learn from others, to grow from others, to understand others. Because it's great and best practice, great practice to seek first to understand, then to be understood. And that goes in your marriage, that goes within yourself, and that goes just with your overall life. So hope you guys got some great information from this. If you guys got some good information from this, please press the like button, share it, because sharing is caring, because it really helps with us reaching many people, reaching more people, so they can get this information too. So until next time, make sure you are growing intentionally, loving fearlessly, and connecting on a higher level every single day. And if you haven't already, make sure you check out our book, Let's Talk Polygamy Uncensored. And I will see you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.